for X-Ray. They're not radio show hosts, or they're not coming there to have their own radio show, or they have currently like you and I or Soul Archaeology. They're just there for volunteering.
Oh.
And so none of those other people that were there were time-slotted shows.
Really?
Yeah, they were just all. Yeah, I thought they were all people.
So they're all producers.
Yeah, no, not the case. They were just all there to help with X-Ray to keep it going and flourishing. And so what I want to ask Chase, or Catherine, I believe her name was.
Yeah.
To see if we can maybe ask a volunteer or two if they would have any interest in helping with our show to help levitate it off the ground.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Just an idea.
So then how many shows do they have? I mean, they got a full schedule, don't they?
X-Rays, yeah, they're pretty much every time slot is filled up hour to hour.
So then I wonder why more producers didn't show up to that meeting. I guess maybe they've already hit their year requirement.
That was an orientation. They from what I gathered, that's an orientation that happens twice per year, specifically trying to get new volunteers. Like they've been reaching out to the community looking for more volunteers. And remember on the sheet they asked us, what are you interested in volunteering? And they had you circle.
Right.
So that's specifically like volunteers looking. And before you arrived, we were all having to wait out front in the rain.
Right.
And I was like asking them like, oh, do you have a show? And no one's like, no, I don't have a show. I'm just here to volunteer.
You know, when I volunteer at KBOO, KBOO has 10 staff and 500 volunteers.
Wow.
You know.
That are not radio show hosts.
Well, no. It includes radio show hosts, but they have like 120 shows on the air. Because each show has like maybe a half an hour time slot, you know. And each show is different. Each time slot is different. Mm-hmm. So you have those volunteers who are show producers, and then you have people who come and they do the events, or they do traffic and continuity, or they do, you know, I don't know, cataloging or whatever. Right. So altogether, KBOO has a bunch of volunteers. I'm sure X-Ray is the same way. Right. You know, they probably have a bunch of people who are doing a lot of stuff other than shows, but it would have been nice to meet some of the other producers too.
Absolutely, I agree.
Okay.
Why don't you do a quick test to make sure that our volumes are good?
I tested it while you were answering the call.
Did I get a call?
Call nature.
Hello, nature. Welcome.
I have something for you.
I've got something for you.
Okay, so let me know when you're ready. Ready?
No, I gotta stretch. Every stretch requires a good amount of stretching. Double thumbs up.
Ready?
Yeah. Want some water?
Yeah. I'm not ready.
Yeah. You don't want almonds flying around. That's the Dawn specific cup.
Very nice.
You always get that one. I'm always getting that one.
So then, how did your wife feel about the show? I mean, you said last week that she listened and she thought it was good. Friends and what do your friends and family think? Are they happy with it?
My mom, obviously, my mom's going to always be positive, and she was excited. She was just floored how her son is doing something like this, and she wants to hear episodes. The friends that listen to our episodes, the episode, I forgot to mark it on Facebook. Episode 1, Mom and Pop Shops. Episode 2, I did, and I had a lot of people responding, and it was positive. And
something else you can use this website that I use called Buffer. And what Buffer does is it schedules emails or whatever. And so Facebook posts. So you can go to Buffer and you can say every Friday at 11, send out an email to these people, or put a post on Facebook, or put a post on Instagram that says, hey, remember, today at 1, Country Dog, City Dog.
Right.
So I don't know if you use something like that.
I don't, but I also want to, we should start focusing, not focusing, but I got your list of radio shows on PDF, but also get the momentum of a podcast, or start thinking about when an idea to get a podcast would be going.
So, and is that something that we do through X-Ray?
I saw that they have, like, this is in podcast format also. I just don't know if
Right.
our show is technically considered a podcast on X-Ray FM.
Well, I think once it okay, I see your point. Right. I don't know. I know Cable has podcasts. They have shows, and then they have podcasts. So you're right, they're probably different somehow. Okay. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Country Dog, City Dog. My name is Kevin Levy.
And I'm Don Merrill.
And thank you so much for joining us for today's show. And I think today's topic, something that is very much to my heart, is art. Art and how it plays in everyday life, and how art of all types is one of the few things that can bring us together.
The difference between the way art is treated in urban environments versus rural environments is a big deal, because there are, as I'm sure our listeners know, there's a big debate going on in America's communities as to how much power do teachers have to teach what they teach, and art is one of the most volatile subjects in schools right now.
It is, and one of that might have to do with funding, and are schools getting enough funding to expand art in their programs, and of course math and science are vital subjects. We all know the subjects that we absolutely have to keep in our school education system, but many schools are leaving out the art and the music expansions in classrooms, and to me that's doing a disservice.
Well, it used to be, I guess STEM has been around for a long time: science, technology, engineering, and math. But then around 2008, there was an effort to change STEM to STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, because they realized that art is as important to the education for kids as science and technology and engineering and math.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't know about that. I feel that art has no boundaries. It is a unifier. It doesn't matter regarding politics or gender or race, suburban, rural, urban, anywhere you live, it connects no matter where you live. So many of us we can relate to a certain song, a certain vibe that a piece of art, like when we take it in, it just helps to connect, and we feel immersed and lost in our thoughts. Art of all kinds can bring us together, and it's just something that we really have to focus on and expand.
There was a PhD student who did her dissertation back in 2018. Her name was Annette Vargas. She was doing it for the University of Nebraska, and she did a dissertation about the existence of art in rural versus urban environments. And she had a definitions page, and arts education, programming, curriculum, she defined it as the study. The study was a synonym for various forms of visual and performance arts. She said historically there are 5 main arts: painting, sculpture, architecture, music, and poetry. And today, in the modern time, 2 more types of arts have been introduced. They're performing arts, including theater and dance, and then the fine arts, which includes like film and photography, video production, conceptual art, printmaking, clothing design, that kind of stuff. So a lot of that has to do with, those definitions, I think, have to do with schools, whether or not a school district or a school or a community adopts art has to do a lot with how much they feel art is valuable to the education of their students. A lot of communities put a lot of money into their arts programs. Like in Vancouver, they have the Vancouver School of Architecture and Arts, I think. Or no, it's the Vancouver School Arts Academy. That's it, the VSAA. And recently there was a performer named Mark Wood. Mark Wood is very famous in the string community because of his innovations in violin technology and string instrument technology. And he told the parents in the audience at this concert that I attended a few weeks ago that VSAA is one of the few schools in the country where the community, it's obvious that the community has made an investment in arts education over and above, you know, the investments of the school district. He said not all communities in the country are like that. He said you can go through a community and look at, he said his clue as to whether or not a community is invested in arts is when he drives through the community in advance of whatever he's doing that evening, he'll go through the architecture of the city. And he says if the architecture of the city is not innovative, then he can tell that the city may not have an investment in art like they should.
Interesting. I think maybe another way that you can tell as you're driving through that city or small town is, do they have museums for like art museums? Are there live music venues that are out, late music venues? Are there drawing classes that you can go to throughout the day?
Right.
Those are all signs that can tell if a city or town has invested into the arts.
Something else, murals. If you see a lot of murals on the sides of public and private buildings, you know, that means that the city encourages that. They encourage artists to express themselves. Business owners encourage artists to express themselves. So, like I used to live in Salt Lake, and something that I thought was really cool was there was a building that was being demolished in Salt Lake. But before the building was demolished, the owners of the building invited all of the artists in Salt Lake to come and tag the building in their own special artistic style. And it was remarkable to see all of the people who came out with all these different styles of art and tag the building before the building was torn down. It was sort of like, you know, doing a sand painting kind of, which I thought was really, it was sort of like it showed, you know, Salt Lake was willing to give artists an expression, because, you know, a lot of communities have to deal with people who are tagging stuff. But in Salt Lake, what they decided was they would just let people tag this one building, and it was remarkable what the artists came up with.
There's a big difference between tagging just graffiti and art graffiti. There's a huge difference. I sometimes cannot stand when I am driving maybe up down Powell Boulevard and the amount of graffiti that just litters those empty abandoned buildings or other structures. That is just, it, in my view, it disgraces that street and our city. Yet there's graffiti art, which is amazing, and I want to see a building that, as exactly what you're saying, is specifically meant for artists to create murals. I know there's this amazing muralist that is here in Portland. His name is Dan Cohen. Dan Cohen he gets hired to create some of the most brilliant pieces of art on these huge, like 50-story buildings, and he'll create a 100-foot mural of the most detailed, intricate artwork, and it's brilliant. It's something that, and then he gets hired to go all around the United States. They learned about him here in Portland, and now he travels to New York and Los Angeles to create art.
Kevin is normally the one to bring me back from the hinterland, but I'm going to bring him back this time because we've sort of gotten away from urban-rural arts programs. You know, the other thing about urban and rural, the difference between urban and rural arts programs that they both share, you know, it's like these arts programs are expensive, and you know, sometimes limitations make it difficult for school districts to support arts programs, and there again, you know, schools, communities decide like what's important. You know, is it important to focus on arts, music, performance, or is it more important to focus on math and reading, you know, and penmanship and computer skills, you know, for colleges and universities that focus on manufacturing or, you know, the trades. You know, how important is arts education for those schools and those communities?
Sure. You know, I was just hanging out with a politically active friend of mine who we don't share the same viewpoints, but we're friends, and we were talking how he he is not in favor of legislation to expand the art in schools. And we've had that debate back and forth, and he was just telling me how money is needed in elsewhere, other places. And then one day I remember he invited me to his house to hang out for dinner and a beer.
Now, you're not about to say something that's going to get you in trouble with this person, right?
I'm not going to mention his name. And
he's going to know who he is, right?
Well, let me finish my story.
Okay, sorry. I'm just trying to look out, but okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I remember being at his house, and the first thing I noticed when I walk in, I'm looking around, and there's just amazing artwork on his walls. There's a Salvador Dali painting, and other artists, I don't even know their name, but like, he's got great taste in artwork on his walls. And then we're going into the kitchen, and as we're walking through the living room, I see like, there's this bronze statue of a cowboy on a horse flinging his hat, and I was like, well, that's a beautiful sculpture, that's art. And we're in his kitchen having a good IPA, and music is playing in the background while we're talking, and then he has this impressive CD and DVD collection, and then I could see as a bookshelf of like books and poetry, and I'm like, wait a second, like am I missing something here? Am I missing something here? Like, is that like the definition of being a hypocrite? I don't know. So I just had to call that out, because it just felt to me that he was saying one thing but then doing another, and it just didn't feel right.
Well, I think that a lot of people feel that what individuals do with their own resources is one thing, but what the state does with public resources is something different. And, getting back to the school funding issue, I mean, there are a lot of people who don't necessarily want to pay for arts education, because I can remember when Senator Jesse Helms was the majority leader in Congress, very staunch Republican from North Carolina, I think, and there was this big fight between him and the National Endowment for the Arts. He said he didn't want to have to pay for art that he and his constituents found offensive. And so, he said something like, the best artist in the world was Remington. And I'm like, well, the people who like Van Gogh and Picasso might disagree with that. But, Remington was very traditional, safe, Americana. And, it was sort of like what he thought government art should pay for, if it was going to pay for anything. And so your friend, might be somebody who also feels like, what I do with my money, if I want to spend money on art and books and paintings and music, that's my choice. But do I necessarily want my tax money to spend it? Do I necessarily want my tax money spent on that, when I think maybe the schools could spend more money on math and reading and computer skills or the trades? I mean, I can understand why people would think that.
Yeah, there's two different perspectives of every story, and that's what I love about this show.
And again, I just want to say, I'm not trying to support the viewpoint of necessarily one side or another. My politics tend to be center-left, okay? But I really can understand why an opposing view, I mean, not a crazy opposing view,
right.
but I can really understand why an opposing view might have some validity. I mean, and there are a lot of people who say, art, like this study from this University of Nebraska, there are lots of studies that say teaching kids art, whether they're in the rural environment or the urban environment, it really does a couple of things. First of all, it helps show kids that, the world is a lot bigger than just math and science and engineering. It shows, the creativity of the human spirit. It teaches kids to communicate. It teaches kids to engage with people who are different than them by looking at their art. And, it teaches people to think outside of the box. And all three of those things are some things that some people just don't want kids to do.
Absolutely. To even expand, maybe we need to look at music in a different light. Specifically, art in the form of music. Music can be education. Music is Music is science. Music is mathematical. Music is a foreign language. It's history. It's physical education. It's creative expression. Music requires research. And music is international. If you teach a kid music, you are teaching him the world. And there's just so much that can go into learning music, learning the arts, and broadening, expanding your horizon of what is out there, what is going on in the world. And the arts and the music, no matter where you live, it's such a powerful thing.
You know, the thing that I was amazed at, you know, when I would read about arts or take arts education programs, take arts education classes, is I didn't realize that style and fashion went down as far as your dishes and your flatware and your furniture. I mean, it's all interconnected. And your clothing. There's this wonderful scene. Oh, I love this scene in The Devil Wears Prada, where Anne Hathaway is sort of like snickering because Stanley Tucci and what is her name? The famous actress. I can't name. Anyway, they're all in this room and they're sort of like debating like what colored belt should we use for this show, and Anne Hathaway sort of snickers, you know, and this woman who is playing Anna Wintour of of Vogue magazine. I can't think of the actress's name. I cannot believe it. Meryl Streep. Okay, so Meryl Streep and Stanley Tucci are sort of like looking at Anne Hathaway like, why are you laughing? You don't. And so Meryl Streep just like breaks it down to her. She says, oh, you don't think that what you're wearing has anything to do with what we're doing. And then she proceeds to deconstruct this lumpy sweater that Anne Hathaway is wearing, and talks about how, you know, the color was cerulean and it was created by Yves Saint Laurent 20 years ago, and then Oscar de la Renta did something with it, and then it filtered down through. She said it filtered down from the runways to that tragic little casual corner where you probably fished it out of the bottom of a sale bin. And I was like, ooh. And I'll bet that history was totally accurate. And it's like it's just a reminder of how every aspect of our lives that have anything to do with design, style, fashion, shape, color is a result of the arts, is a result of the classical arts, you know, of painting and light and perception. And it's like, it's so important for people to be able to see the world other than through a formula or through through something that people think is very, very compartmentalized. We need to be able to see that math is tied to art and art is tied to math, so that one doesn't take precedence over the other.
Absolutely. You know, it was reminding me as you were talking, I remember doing a road trip to Central Oregon and stopping at Prineville. I think I was visiting the Painted Hills, and there was a campground in Prineville. Love that area. It's just so beautiful. I could just do another topic on Central Oregon and camping. My gosh, we should. We were in Central Oregon, and I was just speaking with this lovely couple who spend their days in their RV creating art, and they showed me a few pieces, and I was just so impressed. I was blown away at the amount of creativity that exudes out of them. And we're just talking, I'm like, and I was just, where are you showcasing your beautiful art? And they were telling me there was just nowhere around here where they could just hang up their artwork and have like happy hour where artists hang up all their artwork in one big room and people come in and have an event, a gathering specifically focused on artists. And
really?
Yeah, at least
in Prineville.
Yes.
In the Prineville area.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And it just got me. I'm not saying
there might be some people in Prineville who disagree with that. Maybe they just didn't know.
Absolutely, and I was just getting ready to say it. I'm not saying by no means that does not exist in Prineville. I'm sure it does, and this couple just did not know about it. But it just got me thinking. Every town, every small town, large city. I wish there was like a website like Oregon's favorites. that you can go on to, hey, I'm visiting this city, and I want to click on the city and get a list of...
See, somebody's going to build that website like right now.
Right now, and every single art gallery and poetry shop and bookstore and music and everything is on that list. So,
but you know, that might already be the Oregon Arts, was it Oregon Arts? I can't think of what it's called. But anyway, I know that the Oregon has a Oregon Arts Commission. I think the Oregon Arts Commission has something like that, where you can go to it and it'll give you a list of shows and openings. And
you know, as an artist myself here in Oregon, if I don't know about that list, and I've been in this creative community for a couple decades, if I don't know it, I can only imagine that the average small-time artist or the average person who's not in the arts won't know about it either. And so would love to see that getting pumped up more, that exactly what you're saying.
You know, you make me think of something else. I mean, okay, so there are venues and there are disciplines, but then, you know, there are lots of people like the couple that you met who are creating art, you know, for their own pleasure. But, you know, I have also met a lot of people who do not believe that they are creative at all. And I don't know, maybe this is naive on my part, but I sort of believe that if we're all human beings, we all have the spark of creativity. It's different creativity for all of us. Some may be able to play music by ear, some may be able to draw, some may be able to, you know, interpret, you know, shapes and colors and, you know. But there are so many people that I've met who said, oh, I can't do that. And I'm like, how do you know you can't do it? And I just know I can't do it. And it's like they sort of have talked themselves into believing that, you know, they can't put two words together that somebody else might find interesting. I mean, I think that's part of it. Part of it is people feel like they're not as good as the professionals, first of all, whatever the hell that means. And then they're afraid of being criticized by people because they try something. It's like people know you for this. And when you step outside of your box, people are like, why are you doing that? And then they feel like, oh, I probably shouldn't do that because people think it's a weird thing for me to do. And then they don't do it. But I wonder how many people have something locked up inside of them. A book, a painting, a song, you know, anything. An idea for a pair of shoes, anything. But they don't do it, one, because they don't know where to start. They don't feel like they had the formal education. They don't feel like they have the help. They don't want to be criticized. And they don't know if they're going to go around wasting resources for something that they think deep down might not really do anything anyway. And plus, people want to do everything perfectly. And so they think, if I can't do it perfectly, I don't want to do it. Listen, I'm talking to you. I know exactly who you are because I have been that person. And I know people like that. So, I mean, you know, whether we're talking about arts education for schools or funding for schools or whatever, it really comes down, because Kevin said something earlier about teaching kids music. Well, you know, you're not going to teach a kid music if a kid doesn't want to learn music. I mean, the kid might want to learn painting, you know. I mean, the intent to expose kids to art and arts education is very important. But there has to be the desire in there, the spark in there. And just like there are kids who are in piano classes who hate piano, I'm sure that there are adults out there, you know, working in Safeway who really have a great idea for a kid's book, you know. So get on it. You're not going to live forever. Get on it.
I love it. Yeah, I like your passion. I feel it. I wish everyone would just, whatever they're feeling, whatever they want in life, just to go for it. You know, to bring home, I see people living out in rural Oregon or any rural area of your state and the city. If two people have music in common and they come together and they are geographically very different and politically very different, but they are both musicians, and you can put them in the same room together, they'll start immediately forming a connection, a musical connection, and just jam and play music and have fun and drink beers, and all of their divide and anger that they might have will just melt away. It's something that music and art just bring people together. It's something that it's again, as I said earlier, it's just a powerful force. I wish there was a way we can expand the arts and give subsidies or tax breaks or grants or incentives to art galleries or local artists or museums or drawing classes or literature or theater, painters, poets, sculptures, movie sets, productions,
Take a
all
breath.
forms.
Oh my God.
All this creative art. Let Oregon be the mecca. Let everyone know that this state is a powerhouse, and give a platform to artists in all four corners of this state to try their best to build a career off of something that they're so passionate about.
You know, I think whether you live in a rural community, whether you live in an urban community, whether you live in a suburban community, like you said, it's like creative people, they speak a language. You know, you get a couple of creative people in a room, they're going to create something that's bigger than all of them. This synergistic thing that happens. You know, I think one of the other issues is that people they kind of confuse arts with entertainment, and people can sit at home and watch entertainment and not have to know anything about what they're watching. You know, whereas with art, you know, it's kind of important to know what came before. You know, and that work kind of puts people off sometimes. You know, but you know, besides art, you know, making people think about their creativity, it helps them be able to communicate better. It helps them be able to look with a critical eye at what they're looking at to see, you know, like, what does society really mean? What is society trying to tell me, you know? I think whether it's for elementary school students or secondary school students, there's been all kinds of research that said art strengthens kids. It strengthens the mind, you know? I mean, science is important, but I think it was Einstein that said imagination is more important than creativity. Imagination is more important than, what did he say? Imagination is more important than...
Going to the grocery store.
No, I can't remember. But he was making the point that science is important, but imagination is more important. So I think that, you know, no matter what we're talking about, I mean, we're going to be talking about a lot of subjects on this show, but in the end, it really comes down to the rural and urban communities. There are a lot of things that make them different, but there are also a lot of things that make them similar. And a lot of things that make them similar are sometimes the people in both communities want the same thing, you know, whether it's good health care, whether it's good schools for their kids, whether it's a livelihood, you know, whether it's air, whether it's, you know, access to you know, I don't know, to the environment, you know, a clean environment. I think all of us want the same thing in a lot of ways. You know, the problem is just figuring out how to get there without stepping on each other's toes. And I think art is one of those sort of secret things that we all sort of want to be able to enjoy and express. You know, but then again, like we started out talking about, there's lots of school districts that want to limit arts education because they feel like, you know, in some ways it's dangerous, you know, for their kids to be exposed to certain types of arts. Like all of the angst right now around drag shows. I mean, those aren't part of school curricula. Drag shows aren't part of school curricula, but communities are like cracking down on drag shows because they don't want children to be in the audience for drag shows. I'm like, first of all, if I was an adult, I wouldn't take my child to a drag show until he or she was at a certain age to where I could explain, okay, now this is somebody who's dressing up as somebody else because it's fun for them, and they would be able to say, oh, okay, I understand that. I understand that some people may be uncomfortable with that, but there's nothing bad about it. These are people just having another form of artistic expression.
Yeah, you know, there's so much to talk about how art can be a unifier. But we would also love to hear from you. We would love to hear your thoughts. Is art or not a unifier? Does it connect the urban and rural divide? Why don't you log into countrydogcitydog.fm, and there is a comments and question section at the bottom, and reach out to us. Reach out to Don and I and share your thoughts. We would love to hear from you.
I would love to hear from you as long as you're not being a jerk. If you're being a jerk, believe me, I will delete you in a second.
Ha! countrydogcitydog.fm, and I full-heartedly agree with that comment, Don.
So, again, anything that you guys think would be good topics for us to talk about, we would love to get those suggestions too, because the country dog, city dog thing is really a takeoff on the country mouse, city mouse thing, which is an Aesop thing, I think, which really is everything. It's not just political, it's not just economic, it's not just social, it's everything. So we really do welcome your comments and we welcome your participation, and we're doing this partly for us because this is kind of fun, but we're also doing it for you.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate your time. My name is Kevin Levy.
And I'm Don Merrill.
And have a good day.
That was a good one.
That was good. I really liked it.
Yeah, that was good. Okay.
Yay. Alright, I saw Jeremy text it back in the middle of our show, but I was like, oh, I can't read it right now. You did not leave the doors open, period. You left the backyard door locked, period. But again, thankfully Sarah was home, period. No worries at all, period. Enjoy your time out, period. Cool, that'll be a good one.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just a little almond, eating myself today.
Yeah, I think two of these a week is a good pace.
I agree. When we did 3 last week, that third one, we did trains, policing, and living a healthy lifestyle.
We redid training.
Right. I think by that third one, I was pretty much mentally tired. But I still loved it. Oh yeah, I said life goes on.
Okay.
Organic, Turkish, dried figs. Would you like one?
Oh, figs.
Different kind than the other ones I had. Would you like an afternoon glass of wine?
Oh no, I'll pass, Kevin. Thank you.
Or so will I. If I day drink, I am destroyed for the rest of the day.
My son-in-law really likes IPAs. You mentioned IPAs. He works at a tap room in Vancouver. And he really loves his IPA. He loves his whiskey too. I bought him, what was it? I think it was Maker's Mark. I bought him some Maker's Mark.
Sure.
For his birthday. And, so I'm guessing that you probably were keeping up on what was going on with the OLCC, right? And their PAPI crisis?
You're probably talking about some of the people that were working here trying to get some certain high-end bottles for themselves. Yes, it did.
Pulling that stuff off I'm not even sure if that stuff ever got to the shelves because it's like...
I don't think so. Not, there's the makers only create X amount of bottles distributed throughout the U.S. And so when these people here in the high-ups, they got them for themselves. They never got them to the shelves, so people never even had an opportunity or a chance. And there's, I don't know if you know, but I've signed up, there's a list that you can put your name on saying, hey, if you want this bottle, or like they give a list of like 10 very rare bottles that will go for lottery. And so even though, so basically there's only 18 bottles of Jameson 20-year aged barrel. Only this many bottles are coming up, and then there'll be a lottery of like 700 people that will all fight for it.
Wow.
And then that 700 is not a confirmed number. I'm just giving you an example.
But that's for this state or,
yes,
or nationwide?
This state.
Okay.
Yeah, each state has their own lottery.
Okay.
And then only to find out that when I'm putting my name up there to try to get one of these very rare bottles, that someone at the top just kind of shrink and just took one for themselves.
Did they pay for it?
That I don't know. They better, at the very least, if they just took it for free, that would even be like a kick them while they're down.
And we don't even know if they paid. We don't know if they paid.
I don't know.
And here's the thing, it's like, and these guys are all saying like, we did nothing wrong. I'm like, well, it sure looks like you did something wrong.
Right.
You know, and the governor thought you did something wrong.
When the governor's going to take action. I mean, she was brand new into office. We should do a future episode on our new governor.
Country dog episode on the governor. Oh yeah, because people hated Kate Brown.
I was not a big fan of Kate Brown.
Yeah, I was not a fan of Kate Brown for a different reason. I thought that she was a good legislator, but I listened to a couple of her campaign debates, and she struck me as, it occurred to me that she could be kind of a dirty fighter, and even though she kind of presented herself as very calm and balanced and fair, I mean, she said some things that were pretty catty, and I'm like, was that really necessary? You know, was that really necessary? So, I mean, you can choose a politician because of what they do, and then you can choose a politician because of who they are. And I would choose her for who she. I would choose her for what she did, but I wouldn't choose her for who she was.
You had these?
Yeah, I had some of those. Those are good too.
I mean, I just opened it right now. These are amazing.
Didn't you buy? You bought those before, though, have
I don't remember. Have I?
Yeah, they look the same. Okay.
I mean, you
those are smoked. Yeah, let me try.
Oh my God, these are take a handful. They're amazing. I'm glad that our new governor, Tina Kochek, is cracking down on homelessness and all the things that she said in an equitable way. But honestly, I was very hesitant. I don't remember if I voted for her or not, because something that struck a chord, was when she was the leader of the Speaker of the House of Oregon. She made a deal with the Republicans that when it came down to like drawing up the district boundaries, that if the Republicans did not walk out, I got to read up again, then she will make more fair district boundaries when it came to drawing our house lines. Right. And then when it came down to it, she totally lied.
Yeah, she went back on that deal.
She went back on that deal, swiped the rug out from the Republican Party, and said, I know I said this, and I promised you that, and you gave me this already in return, but now I'm going to take it back, and I'm going to gerrymander our state in the Democrats' favor. To me, that was not cool. Like, she gave us her word, and she went back on her word, and that, to me...
She gave us her word. So do you consider yourself a Republican?
I consider myself an independent.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought you considered yourself an independent.